What do you call a waterproof activity tracker with a built-in heart rate monitor and a smooth touchscreen? Well, that's an easy one. You call it the Garmin Vivosmart HR. Following up on the original Vivosmart, Garmin's trying to step its game up by including a host of new features with this recent release. Let's check out how they did in this true review of the Garmin Vivosmart HR. The tracker retails for $149.99, but most places you'll see offer it for around $129.99. This price point puts it right in line with many other fitness bands on the market, but substantially cheaper than many dedicated sport watches. There are a couple of configurations you can pick from when getting the Vivosmart HR. It comes in two sizes, regular and extra large. The regular comes in three colors: standard black, imperial purple, and the one that I have with me today, midnight blue. Unfortunately, the extra large only comes in black, so sorry to those of you out there with bigger wrists. Unlike other activity trackers, the Vivosmart HR does not allow you to swap bands. In fact, the band is attached to the brains using 4 small screws, so it's probably better not even to go poking around there in the first place. Regardless of which band you get though, they all come with a standard watch style buckle. I'm really happy Garmin went with this style of locking the device, since it's what most people are used to and it does provide a very secure fit. There are plenty of holes cut into both halves of the band, and this serves two functions. First, it means there's a hole for almost every wrist size. Gone are the days where you have to pick between having it on too tight or too loose. In addition, the holes provide an escape for any heat or moisture that may develop under the band, meaning sweat's pretty much non-existent. The most distinguishing feature of this device, the heart rate sensor, protrudes slightly from the back and does add to the overall thickness. For my measurement, the brains of the tracker measure just under 2 inches in length and 3/4 of an inch in width. Including the heart rate sensor, the Vivosmart HR is roughly half an inch deep. This means it isn't the smallest wrist-based tracker, but the smooth design means it also doesn't get caught on sleeves too often. The black and white screen is roughly 1 inch by half an inch and has a pixel ratio of 160 by 68. This definitely won't be the sharpest screen you've ever looked at, but when you consider what this device is made for, you can pretty much forgive it. Moving on to the visibility of the display, I had no problem seeing what the screen was showing both indoors and outdoors in direct sunlight. One thing I will mention, however, is that there is a very limited viewing angle. When viewing the screen head-on or at a slight angle, it's pretty easy to make it out. Tilt it too far though, and the screen dims a significant amount. It's not so bad that it's unreadable, it's just a lot harder than I expected. Night visibility is pretty tough, but luckily the Vivosmart HR includes a backlight that can be activated by either touching the screen or lifting your wrist to make it visible. Now, powering a heart rate monitor and an always-on display takes a lot of battery power, which may lead you to think that you're going to be charging the device pretty often. This isn't the case, however. Garmin advertised the Vivosmart HR as having a 5-day battery life, and from my experience this was pretty close to accurate. During my testing, I did some light activities with the watch and wore it non-stop until the battery died, which took just over 4.5 days. This puts it on the lower end of tracking devices, and the average user can probably expect to charge it around twice a week or so. The charger for this tracker is, yet again, a new one from Garmin. It clips onto the bottom of the tracker and reminds me a little bit of a cradle of some kind. Thanks to the clips on the side of the charger, the Vivosmart HR stays firmly attached to the charger, although getting it on and off is an easy process. From my testing, charging from 0% battery to a full charge took roughly 2 hours through a computer USB port, but it can probably be done in an hour and a half or so using a wall outlet according to other reviews. The obvious highlight of this device over the original Vivosmart is the built-in heart rate monitor. Again, this heart rate monitor does protrude a little bit out of the back of the tracker, but it didn't really feel uncomfortable to wear, even though it does tend to leave an imprint on your wrist when you take it off. The Vivosmart HR measures your heart rate in 2 ways. When you start an activity, the Vivosmart HR measures and reports your heart rate once a second, providing you with the most up-to-date measurements. When not recording an activity, however, heart rate's actually measured only once every 5 minutes to help save battery. If you go to the heart rate screen, which I'll show you later in the video, you can also get an instantaneous heart rate. I found that the heart rate accuracy was similar to other trackers and watches with wrist-based monitors. That's to say, it's pretty accurate to within 3 or 4 beats under normal use. During sudden increases or decreases in heart rate though, like when you begin a workout, the Vivosmart tends to lag behind a bit than the chest strap. Eventually it ends up catching up, but it does take a little bit of time. You can see here that as soon as I start jogging in this video, the Vivosmart HR does take a bit longer to register the higher heart rate, but eventually it ends up reaching the same level. Moving on to the functionality of the device, there are 10 main screens you can flip through. The home screen shows you the time, day of the week, and date. Next we have a step counter, which shows both current step count and your step goal. After that is a floor counter, which shows you how many flights of stairs you've climbed compared to your goal. Beneath that is the active minutes tracker, which basically keeps track of how many minutes you've spent exercising during the week. The tracker recommends 150 minutes of active time during the week, so you can keep track of your progress here. Next, there's a simple calories burned page, which probably just uses your height, weight, and possibly heart rate to make a guess as to how many calories you've burned. Similarly, there's a distance traveled screen, which uses your height to figure out your stride length and then multiplies it by how many steps you've taken to calculate how far you've traveled. The next few screens only work if you had your tracker connected to your phone. The music controller app lets you play, pause, or skip tracks from your favorite music apps on your phone. I personally set my default audio app to Google Music using the Garmin Connect app, so when I press play from the tracker, music starts playing from the app. Next up, you can get a weather screen that shows you the current temperature, the high and low temperatures, sky conditions, and the chance of rain or snow. Tapping on this screen gives you a 4-day forecast that shows you the temperatures for each day. After that, there's a screen for browsing through unread notifications. Pressing on a notification shows you a short preview of the message, and then pressing again gives you an option of reading the entire message or dismissing the notification. Finally, there's a heart rate screen that shows you your current heart rate as well as your resting heart rate. Pressing on this produces a graph of your heart rate over the last 4 hours. There's one physical button on the bottom of the Vivosmart HR, and pressing it leads you into a separate menu system. First up, there's your activity tracker, which allows you to record running, walking, cardio, or other exercises. After selecting your desired exercise, you can further configure some of the characteristics of your workout. The watch can alert you when 30 minutes have passed, when you've traveled 1 mile, or when you've burned 100 calories. In addition, you can set heart rate alerts to let you know if you're in the right zone, as well as an auto lap, which is set to 1 mile by default, but can be configured within the settings. When you start the exercise, you can see all of the important information by swiping through the screens, such as distance traveled, an exercise timer, calories burned, heart rate, time of day, and music controls. You can also see that heart rate zone alert that comes up once in a while. After completing your workout, you can either discard it or save it to review on your phone. This tracker is rated as being waterproof up to 5 ATM. Unfortunately, heart rate will probably be pretty unreliable in those conditions, and there isn't even a swimming activity profile. Because of that, the Vivosmart HR is pretty much only good for giving the time underwater. It is, however, completely fine to wear it in the shower or in the rain without worrying about water damage. Backing out into the main menu, the next option is to Do Not Disturb mode, which pretty much prevents notifications from coming in until you disable the feature. The next option is to see what alarm you have enabled. You can't actually set an alarm using the tracker. To do that, you need to use the Garmin Connect app. There's only a vibrating alarm on the Vivosmart HR, but I'm happy to say that it's pretty strong, so most people would feel it even if they're sleeping. On the second screen, there's a sub-menu to check Bluetooth status and pair it with a phone, an option to sync with the phone, and an option to find your phone if you lost it. When you use this feature, a signal strength bar appears on the tracker, letting you know how close the phone is. In addition, the phone starts playing a melody and a flash begins turning on and off. This is a super useful addition to the Vivosmart HR, and I think it's been implemented really well. On the last screen, there's an option for viewing a previous workout. When you press that, you're presented with a summary screen that shows you the exercise time, the distance traveled, the average heart rate, and the calories burned. Next up is the settings menu, where you can configure some features of the watch, such as units, turning the heart rate on and off, and activity tracking. Finally, we have the information display, which is where the battery status can be found, among other things. I do wish Garmin added a little battery icon or percentage to the home screen, because going to the information screen can get annoying after a while. Overall, this watch is pretty typical of what you'd expect from an activity tracker. It can show you plenty of metrics in addition to the standard ones, such as floors climbed and active minutes. It's very comfortable to wear, and in my opinion at least, it's pretty stylish. The step counter is pretty accurate, so it can definitely be a good judge of how far you've walked. Finally, it is priced at only $120 in most places, so it's relatively affordable compared to most other trackers. On the other hand, it's very limited in what activities you can track with it. With running and walking being the only specific activities, you're pretty much left stranded if you want to do anything else. Yeah, you have cardio and other, but it just doesn't feel specific enough. It's kind of understandable though when you consider what this device is made for. The viewing angles on the screen are a little poor, and the battery life is on the shorter side, but in the end, this is just a regular fitness tracker. It does some things well, and other things could be improved. I do think that the pros slightly outweigh the cons in this case though, so this is a product I would recommend overall. If you like this review, definitely give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below. If you love this review, hit that subscribe button so you can always tune in to the next videos. Thanks for watching.